my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash, and welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot, presented by our good friends over at Little Caesars Pizza. We're Stay Hot, they're staying ready with some hot and ready pizza for you all NFL season long. We're back to recap week 14 of the NFL season. We're also going to talk a little bit about the in-season tournament, because it did happen, and LeBron won, so we got to give him his flowers, the GOAT. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. I'm over COVID now, so that's great.
Is this the first time you've had it?
I think so.
Okay, you in a long time.
It was a hell of a run.
Have you had it,
Like I
Theo?
said earlier, getting COVID in 2023, not great.
I have.
So it's just me. I'm the lone soldier.
It's crazy that you guys both didn't get it. Blaiden, you might just be immune to viruses.
I'm starting to think so, but don't tell me that. I'll get a big head, you know.
Oh, then I won't.
You said you'll get one. How are you doing, Theo?
My glorious king LeBron won the in-season tournament. Except I can't really feign that act anymore because he beat the Suns, and that was. Matt, you take it from here. You can do it.
He's so glorious.
There we go.
He's so my king. So yeah, it was pretty great. It's just one of those things where, you know, how could you not be rooting to watch Twitter talk about LeBron winning it? Oh, LeBron. I mean, I thought the Lakers looked really good. Anthony Davis played super crazy, obviously, when he's aggressive at the basket against a team that has not been particularly good around the basket. You know, there's not a lot people can do, but it's just on off for him. You know, I just think the debate around the whole thing and how much it matters is so funny. It's so funny, and it doesn't really change anything for anybody.
No, it does.
This reason.
Actually puts him in a different tier above every other basketball player ever.
Because he's the only one to do it. It's fair to say. But it's not like, you know, nobody cared about it. Like, the players obviously played pretty hard for it the entire time, and the entire league was in it, and the Lakers are the ones who got it. It's a worthy accomplishment. You know, I'll say this, if the Hornets won it, I'd be making a real big deal about it. I promise you that.
It's encouraging more than anything. It's an early statement. I think maybe someday, depending on where the tournament goes, it could mean more than it does now just because it's so new. There's nothing to base it off of. But if you look back on it in 40 years, people might think like, oh, like an in-season tournament is a valid award. And now LeBron has one. And I think it was a good platform for Halliburton to really flex. And I don't think that he ascends to the level of superstar that he has ascended to in these last few weeks without the tournament, if he was just doing this in normal regular season games. So I think it's good to have your players in a spotlight. And, you know, at the NFL, it happens every week. But in these longer regular season sports, it's kind of hard for anybody to kind of stand out on a big stage, I feel like, when there's a game all the time or every day, or they're on Valley Sports or something like the Pacers are. So I thought it was a really good thing for the league overall.
I 100% agree. And the players played harder and the games were really good. That alone makes it worth it. Because, again, there was never any downside. And it's been pretty quickly put to bed, the idea that this was somehow going to be a negative. Didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's definitely not a negative. At the very least, you know, the regular seasons were more intense. There were no healthy scratches in these games. There was no, you know, load management. And I feel like the beginning of this regular season has been pretty exciting and like held in a high regard for NBA fans. So who knows if NBA fans will keep up their love for this tournament. But right now it seems like
it's cool.
Pretty happy.
Yeah, they need to, there's a few, like, they need to fix the courts. They cannot be that bad.
I like the courts, man. I'm sorry.
They're awful.
They gotta turn the colors down. You can have them be purple or red or blue or whatever. It's like, holy cow! It's like in 2K when you first change the court color, it turns like this rich. I always have to like turn it.
They got the saturation
down.
all the way up.
I know. It's like I just don't think the ground needs to be this like soaked with color.
Adam Silver, the ground is too soaked with color. Please do something.
This is ruining our glorious game.
It is.
It is a little jarring visually. Maybe for like a little kid who looks at Subway Surfers and like young Sheldon TikToks all day. Maybe they can discern it through all the colors better than.
Maybe they can make it a big screen instead. The court, and then do some like Minecraft parkour on there.
Yeah, this is actually there's
definitely some young Sheldon clips.
For my eyes, I want an old-fashioned muted colors type of.
Yeah, they're actually experimenting with putting a green screen on the court so that they can
green screening.
I feel like that way they could play LeBron highlights when other games were going on that were like boring. You could just put a more interesting player going off on the bottom for the people to watch if it got out of hand.
Me personally, I want to watch NFL football. Give me Brown's Johnny Manziel highlights on.
Yeah, put a football game below there. Game got boring.
You want to talk about some football?
I was trying to segue into football, but I couldn't think of a good transition. I think the first game we want to talk about, not the Thursday night game. We're skipping that one. Sorry, Steelers fans. Sorry, Patriots fans. We're going to talk about Bills versus Chiefs. How are we feeling about the penalties? Patrick Mahomes said, what was it, worst call he's ever seen or something?
I think it's interesting. I kind of agree with Mahomes to some extent, but I'm obviously not as angry about it as him because it didn't happen.
Yeah, because you're not the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs.
So true.
But I do understand why offensive offsides is a horrific call, because I feel like the ref's job should be to kind of keep the game moving along in a timely manner more than his job is to throw flags. And if there is a player lined up off sides, a warning makes sense, or like something like along those lines, because it doesn't make so much sense for the ref to watch it and be like, oh, if they snap this, I'm throwing a flag and the play is going to be for nothing and it's all going to come back. It makes more sense to just be like, hey, dude, get on side. And even though like
he reportedly checked, right?
You are supposed to ask. So if he did ask and
apparently he did. Apparently Tony did ask.
Yeah, if that happened, then the ref really, like, if the ref gave him bad advice and then threw the flag,
I think what they're saying,
wild.
I could be totally wrong. I think what they're saying is that Tony like tried to ask and they just didn't respond.
Yeah, that could be, but it could also be Tony messing up and saying that he did. And he didn't,
I'm pulling up the condensed game. Does anyone what time happened?
Well, here's the thing. What makes it somewhat redeemable, this call. I don't like offensive offsides. The fact that no one like warned Reed or Tony, which seems like normal protocol. Like the Chiefs should probably be upset about that if that's the standard. And for this call in this moment, and for that to be the play that ensues, like, yeah, I'd be pretty pissed too. But at the same time, Tony was like pretty far off sides to the point where, what the ref said, like Terry McCauley, he was like, normally when someone's off sides, it's just by a little bit. And they're supposed to, at that point, be like, okay, it's not egregious. Either don't call it, warn them. But Tony was so far off that they had no choice but to just throw the flag. And that I kind of understand because he was pretty far off sides. And that's another reason why I'm not like the maddest at it. But it still sucks that that play didn't stand overall. And that is how the game ended. And I wish that the refs probably just, even if he was farther off sides, just kind of however they warn it I don't know how that protocol is, whether they go to the coach and say it or the player. Like, I guess I don't know how it works. Blaiden, you were a wide receiver. Did you check?
Yeah,
check
you have like you're taught to check. But okay, so I'm rewatching this play. Tony is lined up very far inside. So
yes, he is.
It is hard, but it's not impossible. Like if you're on the ball, you are supposed to look over, you stick out your arm, check to see if like, and the ref will like signal like on, in front or behind.
So he won't like visually, or he won't audibly like say like, "Hey, dude, you're offside." If you look
at the numbers, he'll be like, "You're good." But like, there's usually a signal that they get, and that's what I'm trying to check for right now.
Like he'll look at the ref, and the ref will like nod and be like, "Everyone's good," and then
there's usually a signal, and that's what I'm trying to check for right now because I guess I didn't think about it at the time that this happened to like look for it. So,
because I guess it would be hard to look down the line parallel.
See, I can't see
like Andy Reid said, I don't have a protractor.
Okay, I can't see down the line to the.
I guess the question is, did Tony try to look over?
See, this is the condensed.
Because I think if Tony looked over and didn't get a signal back,
right, that would be messed up.
And they called back that play, like that's just lame.
Mahomes was so mad that I like kind of believe that something messed up happened. Like I have never seen him that hot. After the game, he went up to Allen and it was just like, that was such a bullshit call. I've never seen that called. And Allen was just like,
right.
Okay.
Sorry, dude.
I thought it was so funny. He was so mad. He was just saying it to anybody who would listen. Like, why would Josh Allen care about this?
It doesn't look like Tony's checking. But again, there's like,
it wouldn't surprise me if Tony didn't. I mean, Tony doesn't have
the broadcast, though. So it's like, there's a lot of cutting back and forth. We don't see them until they're like basically fully lined up.
All 22
will reveal whether or not he actually checked. Because all I see is he's just like looking at the ball and then a few seconds later they snap it. But I don't see the actual approach as he's getting set. Man.
It was such a wild play.
Dude, it was such a dope play. I couldn't believe he threw that thing like 30 yards.
It's so funny that his Twitter was like getting dug up and he's spelling squirrel wrong as like a sophomore in college, and like the whole debate on is if he's dumb or not. But the dude steps onto the field and he like literally sees the game better than anyone has like ever seen the game. Like it's wild how like smart he is on the field, and whatever gene makes you spell squirrel right, like he doesn't have that one, but then he gets on the like in every other aspect of his career he's like this mega genius. I think he's a funny male archetype.
He knows football. It cannot be denied.
He does know, and he knows podcasting, and he knows how to shoot his shot, I guess.
You got to give him that.
He's the best in the world at a couple things.
He's got Riz.
He does.
Yeah, that's the thing about that Travis Kelce lateral. He also has Riz. What do we think?
Well, Taylor was there, so he had to. If she wasn't there, he would have never.
What is Travis Kelce's stat line this year when Taylor Swift is not in attendance?
It's like a pretty noticeable difference, I believe.
You can tell, man.
It sucks, though. I mean, it sucks that they lost like that and that play didn't get to stand. But it will always be on the Kelce highlight reels, Matt. I saw that you were worried that it wouldn't be.
It just would have been such an all-timer to add.
It would be, but I think it's still going to be there. Rodgers has an old throw against the Bears that's always on his highlight reels, even though it was called back. And I think that's one of Travis Kelce's greatest moments, and everybody saw it, so it'll be remembered. But the Bills actually won this game.
Yes,
rumors are saying,
and I think. I don't really think that this was a game that wasn't anything that we already knew about
That's how
them.
I feel about it too. I thought it was like, okay. I thought they had, maybe I'm wrong, I thought they had medium success running a few times with James Cook, which I liked. And I thought Allen, played a good game outside of, his horrifying interception, average
Yeah.
Josh Allen moment. But honestly, I don't think offensively they played that crazy good to win this game. I just thought that, the Chiefs receivers are pretty limited, and it cost them a lot. I don't know if they got a bunch of sacks, but I felt like they had a lot of pressure off the edge. Von Miller got in there at one point.
Epinaza had the tip and then the pick, which was huge.
He's so good at that. He's got to be the best in the league at that, as far as I'm concerned, man.
The Bills' strategy of just drafting the longest edge rusher is finally paying off after years of looking like it wouldn't.
True.
Now they want Von Miller off the field so these long guys can be on more. It's like a total flip. Yeah, I mean, we've had the Bills at 8 on our top 10 rankings last episode, and Kansas City at 6, and it was a game that came down to the wire between the teams that were like 2 spots apart on our power rankings. So, yeah, the Bills are capable of beating whoever. You don't want to pull them in the playoffs, no doubt. But the wide receiving performances were pretty bad, and Spags, I think, did a good job taking Diggs away. And again, it's like, who else is really going to beat you? There was no other wide receiver who could answer for. I'm just saying what happened, all right?
I'm afraid Gabe Davis 0 yards is not making the narrative.
It's not good. It's not. No. This was a successful Theo narrative. We're willing to. There's some hits and there's some misses, and he's not good.
He did have a great game though,
but they weren't able to move the ball to the wide receivers.
Rasheed Rice did have a nice game. He did.
He's got to stop with the fumbles, though.
He does need to stop. Now, fumbling's bad, but he did have a very nice game.
Typically.
But I thought Allen played a pretty, Romo kept referring to it as, the superhero cape. Like, he can put on that cape for the team. And I thought it was that kind of game from Allen, whether that be the run into the end zone on power early, carrying guys 6 yards in, the throw where he was almost out of bounds and flipped it to Latavius Murray. That one was nuts. So just kind of tough sledding without the wide receivers, but he was kind of cooking with he had a bunch of plays where he flipped it out to Knox or Kincaid at the last second or Murray. He was doing what he could with just the core players because they weren't really able to get it out to the perimeter at all.
Yeah, they got it done.
No. And story.
Here's what I will say. As much as Chiefs fans are going to want to complain about the penalties, you got to score more than 17 points.
You do have to score more than 17 points. Their receivers are so limited still, even with a good Rasheed Rice game, man.
Yeah, it's just just play better during the other 55 and a half minutes of this game, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, they lost the turnover battle, and it's tough when you're going up against a guy like Allen who's completing some miracle throws. You shouldn't have been in that position probably if you held the ball, because I thought they were moving the ball decently well, even without the good receivers. They actually had a decent game running the ball. I actually thought when they gave Clyde Edwards Helaire the ball, something decent or sometimes even good happened, which has not always been the case. I think the big problem with the Chiefs too is there's just no verticality in their offense. MVS has less than 20 catches this year. Watson is also fast. He's not a huge threat. Rasheed Rice is fast, but he's not really a weapon down the field. It's always Rasheed Rice on a screen and he takes it, or Rasheed Rice in the red zone and he gets a touchdown. It doesn't really seem to be huge bomb to Rasheed Rice. So I think Mahomes is playing pretty well and he's making things happen. But a Mahomes scramble that goes to Kelsey, it's usually at this point not that many yards. It's not a 40-yard chunk. mostly. And where do those chunks come from? It's just kind of tough. It's a lot of energy into like not a lot of efficiency in terms of.
And they've tried so hard to draft the opposite. They've done so much work, it feels like, to get all these deep threats, and just none of them really work like that. And I agree with Kelsey at his age, where it's starting to slow down a little bit for him. Not a bad game today, but obviously, he's never been really some crazy deep threat. It's just tough, man. It's the cupboard is too bare at receiver, and it can't be just one guy going and creating the big plays.
Yeah, because you can double that guy.
Right.
You can just spend 2 at him and try to beat the shit out of him. And it's like, that's what teams do. And he's old and he was injured in training, like late in training camp. It's been rough sledding for Kelsey this year, and he's still producing. So he's still like a really, really elite player. But man, the tackles are also even worse.
They're very bad.
So
they're very bad. It almost reminds me of like Brady's last year in New England, where it was so much like, well, Brady, it can get pretty bad and Brady will still get it done. It's like, yeah, that's true to an extent, man. But
yeah,
you're putting a pretty low ceiling on this thing, even with a quarterback that great, if you can't give him more to work with.
Mahomes leaving after this season? ?
That would be baller. That would be crazy. The Mahomes trade.
Crazy. I was crazy once.
I don't understand that reference.
They locked me in a room. A rubber room. A rubber room with rats. Rats make me crazy.
What is that?
Crazy? I was crazy. You've never heard that?
I've heard it.
Maybe.
I just don't understand what it is a reference to, but I know what
it's like this like video.
It's just like kind of a bit, right? It's not even a reference to anything.
It's just like, well, it was just like a video of a guy who was like crazy. I was crazy once. And
I'm not familiar with that.
No, you've never heard that.
There's no way you've never heard it. Like,
maybe if you showed it to me, not off the top of mind, but good win for the Bills. I'm hoping they can make the playoffs because they excite me more than
the other AFC wild card teams. Yeah.
oh my God.
The Steelers, I'm going to name drop. So I'm hoping they can pass them and get in. But we've called them like the best 6-6 team in terms of like point differential in EPA.
They currently sit behind Cincinnati, Denver, Houston, Indianapolis, and Pittsburgh.
They got to win out.
Yeah.
Steph Curry makes you believe that you can do anything. I mean, look at me. He has me believing that I can shoot threes when I play pickup basketball. And the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce, grip, and stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up and showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock your favorite player and rep his shoes on and off the court. The Curry 11s are perfect for both the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet, locked in no matter what you do on the court. Stop in your tracks with dual density UA Flow cushioning and traction, an emergency brake that you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspiration from the wonders of a positive and modernized future on and off the court. Take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. The Curry 11 Future Curry is available now at currybrand.com.
Moving on to the NFC and moving on to the NFC East, our Sunday night game. We stayed up to watch this game, thinking that it could be another potential game of the year. We were once again let down. Eagles are good, but when their best players all turn the ball over, you're not going to win a lot of football games that way.
That's a good point. That is true. Yeah, if AJ and Devontae are failing you, it's pretty over if you're the Eagles.
Yep.
Yeah,
They could use a bye
3
week.
lost fumbles is pretty bad, man. And I'll give Dak some credit for having a great game, super on point tonight, spreading the love, getting it to a lot of different people. But I thought the Eagles easily would have been right in this one if they just didn't fumble the ball, and we'd be talking about an entirely different game, because it's not like they were massively struggling to move the ball in any way. I mean, there's some things about the Cowboys defense that you got to give them credit for. Like Gilmore had a really good game. They were definitely getting Hurts flushed out of the pocket a decent amount. Like, yeah, there's some things there, but I mean, all of that pales in comparison to losing 3 fumbles from your 3 best offensive players, or your 3 most important offensive players, I'll say.
Yeah, fumbling 3 times is no good. But it was a good game from the defense overall. Like especially Gilmore. It was so promising to have a game like that on AJ Brown. But yeah, as far as the Eagles go and the level of concern, I'm not all that concerned about them. At least in terms of how I felt going into the year. Like going into the year, I worried about the defense and the core of the defense and like how old some of them were. And, you know, is Jalen Hurts a top tier, like pocket passer along with, you know, everything else he brings to the table? And some of those issues have reared their ugly heads here in a really brutal run of their schedule. But it's not always going to be like this with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. And when it's not, they're a far better team than they showed tonight. Although obviously the issues on defense are legitimately real, but they should have enough firepower to get it turned around here in the next couple of weeks before the playoffs. And I think like before this game, we would have said San Francisco's in a tier by themselves, and then it's Philadelphia, and then it's Dallas. And I think that's pretty much the exact same way I feel now, except I feel better about Dallas being in that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles' final 3 games are going to be Giants, Cardinals, Giants. Pretty good.
Yeah, if they start dropping those games, then I'll be really concerned.
Right, except for maybe it depends on how the seeding is played out, but if their seeding wouldn't change from losing the last one and they like sit their starters, but I don't know if they would do that the way they've been playing right now. You would probably want to just take those games to like pummel your opponents if you can.
They're probably not going to be in a sit their starters
probably
situation.
Not. But that's the only situation I could think of where you would be okay with like them dropping a game. But like, yeah, I think they have a pretty favorable stretch of like get right games per se. I don't know.
Yeah. And then Dallas, I hope Dak wins MVP. That's all I can say about the offensive side of the ball. I mean, he's been playing so ridiculously well this season, I think. And I see all these comments because I posted about him versus Purdy on TikTok, and everybody was like, no quarterback deserves it this year. It should be Tyreek or Christian McCaffrey. And I agree with the sentiment that Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek are super valuable and should be in the conversation. But there is a quarterback playing good enough this year, and it's Dak, unfortunately, for a lot of people.
Let me ask you this. Right now, it's a neck and neck in betting odds between Dak and Brock Purdy. Now, I'm not asking you what you think should happen because I know what we're going to say. What do you think will happen?
I think I think if the voting was held now, Dak would win.
Really? You don't think Purdy? You don't think the voters would go for Purdy at all?
I don't think so. Just because Tua didn't get that many votes last year. I think that these Shanahan
went down for some time. It's a little bit different.
Yeah,
and the 49ers are like the undisputed best team right now.
They are, but I think that the situation around Purdy is just so good that the voters would take it into account. Like, I think that it's I don't give the voters that. I mean, Emmanuel Acho is a voter, so I don't give him that much credit.
Is Acho really a voter? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he does vote. Who is his favorite a couple weeks ago? I think it wasn't the worst list, honestly, to give Acho some credit. I think he had Hurts number 1 and Trent Williams on there. I don't know. It wasn't actually
He had Trent Williams
list,
on
but
his MVP list.
he did.
Interesting.
Look, Trent isn't the worst guy that you could have up there, I guess. I don't care if you want to give someone else a shout out. Why not? Why not Trent? Tillery would be the worst. You're right. He does not belong on an MVP list.
I say MVP voters are far, far better than Heisman voters, which I've been furious about all weekend, man. Not that I think Daniels was not the deserving quarterback. I do. But some of the, first off, you know how many Heisman voters there are? Like 700.
There's a lot of them. I see that. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. And then it's just some of the logic behind these guys and what they pick is just complete and total narrative. I saw multiple people who did the whole Jordan Travis got hurt and it cost Florida State their playoff spot, so he must be the Heisman, right? It's no, it doesn't work like that. And I thought Florida State got screwed, but no, it doesn't work like that.
No, that is not how it works. But I do give the MVP voters, I'm just trying to predict their logic. I think Purdy being when Dak and Purdy have the same record and Dak has better raw numbers and Purdy has this absolute super team around him. The defense is great. The skill position players are great. The play caller is a Hall of Famer. I think his counting numbers would have to be noticeably higher than Dak's.
I guess the concern would be his EPA is pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy, but so is,
I don't know if the voters actually look at that or if it just typically lines up that is the guy who ends up getting the MVP. But that is the one thing that would make me a little bit worried. Yeah,
I think that the average MVP voter probably is not looking at the EPA. I would have to imagine that's mostly a Twitter thing is probably what I would guess more than a.
If you have an MVP vote, you're sitting down making your list and you have to check the EPA.
Because then Tua would be number 2 in the voting, right? Because Brock Purdy is number 1 in all these stats, but then it's a lot of times in the EPA stuff, it's him and then Tua right below, and then it's Mahomes and Dak and those guys. But the conversation doesn't really involve Tua that much anymore. But Brock Purdy is all there. So I think it just is kind of the 49ers are better than the Dolphins and their quarterback has. I don't even know the counting numbers, to be completely honest with you. I'd never see anybody tweet counting numbers.
3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 7 picks, second in QBR.
That's Brock Purdy?
Yeah.
People always I see way more EPR. It's really good. Is Tua's that good?
I have no idea. I could go look it up maybe.
Because that's the comparison I'm trying to draw with I don't know if they'll care about that EPA numbers because I just don't think Tua's going to get many votes over.
Tua about 4,500 yards, 24 touchdowns, 10 picks, 7th in QBR. Little worse, but probably not anything crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that Dak would probably win the award. That's just how I see it. I think the voters.
I agree.
Especially after a performance like this in prime time, the throw to Cooks. Purdy played pretty well today, super well today, not even pretty well.
I'll say this. I think Dak will win it, and I agree with you. If the vote happens now, Dak would win it. But if Dak were to put up a stinker in the next 3 weeks,
Dak has to be perfect.
Purdy winning is a total real possibility. He is within striking distance. Absolutely.
Purdy is second. Purdy would finish second. I'm
no question.
The voting happened now. Yeah, and Purdy is probably going to continue to play with a baseline that is much higher than Dak's because his team is better. So I think it's going to be easier for him to maintain the level of play and not have a stinker. And maybe the voting odds is factoring in that. This isn't how the voting would finish right now, but we think maybe it's more likely that Dak has a drop off here or there, or doesn't win his division or something, and doesn't win his division, whereas Purdy, is in a situation where the 49ers are just going to steamroll whoever at this point unless someone gets hurt.
Probably going to win his division.
So maybe the odds are taking that kind of future into account more than saying like Purdy is neck and neck with Dak like right now, because I think Dak would win.
I don't know. I do agree with you that I would give it to Dak over Purdy, and you're probably right that a quarterback almost certainly will win it. But I still think, I mean, Dolphins haven't played this week yet. Tyreek could have an awful game. I would probably give it to Tyreek still, just because I think about when I look back at like Drew Brees seasons. I'm like, this dude had 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, 70% completion rate, and didn't win MVP. And I'm like, that's crazy. I look at that and I'm like, how in the world did he not win MVP? I'm looking at like Brock Purdy and Dak's numbers. I'm like, these guys are going to finish with like 37 touchdowns, maybe 4,500 yards. And I'm just like, am I going to look back 10 years from now, 20 years from now and be like, how did this guy not win MVP? And the answer is
I don't disagree with you. Like, if there was ever a year where it was going to happen, it'd be this year right now. Unfortunately, quarterbacks are just more valuable than receivers. They just are. And it's like, I want to be on board. And if this was, the Heisman, where it's just most outstanding player, I'd be pounding the table relentlessly. But unfortunately, if you make the Tyreek Hill vote, you probably have to be like, well, I'm voting this guy for MVP, even though he's probably not quite the most valuable player. He's about as valuable as a non-quarterback could conceivably be.
Either him or McCaffrey, but McCaffrey has the same.
Would the Cowboys trade Dak for Tyreek Hill?
No. But like
no shot.
I don't know. I just think that's like,
would the Dolphins trade Tyreek Hill for Dak?
We're not starting that discourse, man. We're not getting into that. No, they would not, because they are very happy with wonderful Tua. Thank you very much. They are happy with.
Tua is about to drop 500 yards and 8 touchdowns against the Titans.
And I need most of them to be to River Craycraft for my 32-team fantasy league, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I think
I'm done checking the 32-team fantasy league. I'm so bad.
Well, you're done. Doesn't the third? Isn't the rule that the 32nd team gets relegated?
Is that I win one game in the losers bracket.
You have to win next week.
Do the playoffs start this week?
It's the bottom 4 teams.
Oh yeah.
I have to win this week. Okay.
Yeah, you better start checking it.
Anyway,
what were we talking about? We were talking about Tua. We were talking about how Tua is going to score 8 touchdowns and throw 500 yards against the Titans next week. I don't think he's out of the MVP race quite yet either. It would just take one big performance, like in prime time, especially if the Dolphins have any of those games left.
Yeah, well, he's actually got to, like, he kind of has to build his way back into it. But if he goes and crushes the Titans, the conversations will start. And then he gets Jets, Cowboys, Ravens, Bills, which is a tough stretch. But if they were to go and be great in those, and the offense was going to be like, hey, we've beaten a big-time team, we've beaten some big-time defenses, absolutely gets right back in the conversation. I 100% agree. Like, they want to have tough teams on their schedule. They don't, running up the numbers is whatever. You've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still pretty wide open. But Dak should, and I think does, have a clear lead right now. And I would guess the betting lines probably already say that. But
yeah, I mean, I guess if I have to give it to a quarterback, I'd give it to Dak. But boo, it's lame. No fun league.
What's the next game we want to talk about?
Probably, if we're getting into the 1 o'clock window of games, Bengals, Colts. And Jake Browning. Looks like the Bengals have 2 quarterbacks with JB in their name that are superstars.
They do. Jake has been pretty good.
He's been pretty good for a backup, man. He has. He's been pretty good. Now,
The Jaguars game was more impressive than this one against the Colts.
Yes. And I fear we're headed for honestly, dude, this backup quarterback's been really good. And then, they immediately turn into a turtle or whatever. But I give them respect. Like, the Bengals are totally not out of the playoff race, mostly because Browning has been pretty strong when I think the expectation, to be fair, was that he was going to come in and be terrible. Like a disaster. It was going to be like, okay, this guy, it's going to be like worse than Jets situation where it's like, okay, this guy can't play at all. And that's not been the case. He's been really strong.
Yeah, the game against the Jaguars, especially towards the end, he threw a dig on the backside that was just unbelievably good. And I thought he threw some pretty nice passes today. I thought that there was one throw where he hit the top of his drop and just got the ball out like just incredibly quickly, like just as fast as you possibly could. So some good like pre-snap assumptions and like throwing with rhythm. Like he got to the backside a couple of times, but there was a ton of screens mixed in. And that's, I think, the thing that was holding this performance back from being like super, super.
I mean, you're going to ask him to go out there and be Joe Burrow. So like,
no, you're not. You're not. But there were a ton of screens, and the Bengals were pretty much won this game because it felt like all of their screens like popped. It's like a Madden game.
Yeah, they won this game. And their run defense today was phenomenal. Phenomenal.
It was phenomenal.
I mean, I definitely thought it was more of a defensive performance, and I mean, you still put up 34. But Browning, he understands how he's gonna make it. Getting the ball out quick and being in rhythm, and that's what he can do, and he does it well. He deserves a lot of credit.
He's not playing scared at all. Like maybe the coaching staff is a little bit with him, but he himself, like when he said, like I'm not really emotional winning this game because I haven't just played. Like I've won a lot of games. I won a ton in high school and I won a ton of Washington, and I come in here and now I'm winning again. It's like I just kind of come in and I'm used to it. And it does kind of feel like he isn't playing.
Day, man. It means nothing.
That's what he said.
Win, baby.
It's kind of how he plays, though. It's like he doesn't seem scared out there at all. It's like he doesn't know what to be scared of because he's got Chase and he's got Higgins, and
that's so impressive. And he's so scared.
And he's like making throws and they're catching it, and he's just like, I feel like playing pretty confidently for a backup. Whereas the New York situation, like those guys just, I mean, outside of Zach Wilson today, apparently in the second half, like
and he don't even want to be there. Imagine
he doesn't even want to be there.
Like, wanted to be the starter, what he would have done today.
He just did that to prove a point.
Yes, Zach didn't even want to be a good quarterback. Yeah, I feel like confidence is a big part of it, and like that's what situation can bring you, and that's what New York lacks, but Cincinnati obviously has, and I feel like it's kind of an endorsement for keeping T. Higgins around. Even though he didn't play the greatest game today, like if you've got this environment where Jake Browning can come in and just immediately ball, it's like, why wouldn't you do all you can, I guess, to keep that environment in order? Like if they let T. Higgins go, especially with what's happening to the Bills and the Chiefs this year, it's like those guys, I think, regret not having a second wide receiver. And it's like the Bengals have that. And they don't want to be in a situation next year where it's like Chase getting doubled all the time. And then it's that Princeton's guy whose name I can't pronounce, like as their second guy, or like Charlie Jones or something. Because Tyler Boyd's a free agent too. And if they keep Higgins, Boyd is certainly like, I don't know why.
Boyd should probably not see another contract regardless.
Yeah, I feel like, well, that's crazy. Never?
From the Bengals?
Oh, yes.
Point blank period.
No,
no one would sign him in free agency.
No, he'll get signed. He's not a bad player, but like when you're under the cap pressure now, giving a guy who I think is pretty clear, like he's declining at this point, giving him another contract, multiple years guaranteed, I think that's a bad idea. I'll say this: if they can get a good deal for T, I could be down with it. But like they better have another wide receiver in the draft lined up very early. I don't think you can let T walk, even if you bring back Boyd, and not immediately go and draft a serious replacement.
Yeah, I mean, this would
and
be
even
the
then
year
you need help
to
with tight ends still.
This would be the year to
it would be the
replace
year
him.
to do it. You could totally pull it off. I mean,
the thing is, like, everyone's got the same idea right now, and it's like if they finish with 9 wins, like Roma Dunze isn't going to be the easiest guy in the world to draft. You know, it's like he's going to be kind of a hot commodity that the Bengals may not be able to secure.
Yeah, it's like if you don't land one of those top 4 or so guys, are you really like confident that they're going to come in and just be a beast? Like T. Higgins good from day one? Because everybody else, I like a lot of the other guys, but they're dice rolls, you know. And T is, you know, few wide receivers get that good. I've been on board with them, on and off board with them keeping T. But I also wonder if the receiver class being so stacked hurts what they could actually get back for him if they did try to trade him.
Yeah, that could be true supply and demand. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of an interesting thought that I had today. I thought, which was, you know, it feels like T is kind of a done deal to be gone. But with the way Browning has performed, and T had some bad drops today, but he also had some huge catches. And yeah, I don't know, when you look at some of the problems the other top contenders are having, like the Bengals should probably be realizing what a luxury it is that they have 2 number ones. And I guess I don't know how you could get that done without being in Saints cap hell, but
well, honestly, dude, there comes a point when pushing the Saints cap hell button is not a terrible idea, and being aggressive wouldn't be the worst move in the world, because you do have the quarterback to make it worth doing that, and you've got the guys to do that with that make it worth doing that, which is really the 2 parts of it. I agree. I think I look at the offensive skill position guys around in Cincinnati right now, and I say, if you want to save money, make it Boyd and Mixon. Those are the guys who will be off the books this season. Just don't bring them back. But letting T walk too, I mean, it's just it's the biggest strength, and it's going to change the team entirely.
Yeah, Mixon's set to make $8.5 million next year. Yeah, you
guaranteed.
Chase Brown looks pretty good these last 2 weeks.
It's only 2.7 dead cap. You could save $6 million.
I would strongly consider doing that too.
If it meant keeping T, like, I feel like everybody. Well, Mixon shouldn't be even in the league in the first place, dude. Let's make that very clear. I don't understand. People were confused on Twitter about how Von Miller was playing this week after turning himself in for domestic violence charges.
Meanwhile, we're on year 7 of Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon this offseason when it's on a crime spree. Like, he put a gun, like didn't he threaten someone at gunpoint, and then was involved in like another gun-related incident? Plus, he got caught on camera with like sucker punching a girl and like breaking her jaw. It's like, it was crazy, like barged into the restaurant. Like, you should. So yeah, they should have moved on from Mixon this offseason. I don't know how he's still on the team.
I was shocked.
Regardless of what happens with T, it's like I wouldn't pay. Yeah, I was like kept waiting for like the Mixon. He didn't even get suspended.
That is
got
crazy.
Suspended.
He didn't even get suspended.
I have Mixon.
Did
nothing
Mixon
happened.
Get criminal charges pressed on him?
He must not have, because if he did, that I'm
assuming
can't imagine
that's what. I know nothing.
I mean, that's what they're waiting. That's what they're waiting on with Vaughn, is for like something to actually happen legally. But I don't know. I assume that he didn't, because I just remember the story about him putting a gun in a girl's face, and then nothing ever happened with that. So I don't know. But yes, they should part with Mixon, and like I feel like as long as Browning is balling out, it's a pretty strong endorsement of like, hey, the environment around our quarterback is pretty good. If we can have a backup come in here and immediately, feel comfortable and throw for 300 yards and all these things.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
What game do we got up next?
This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by
Prize Picks. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LaMelo Ball plus Jonathan Mingo at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus reception, something like that. Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. And Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with this injury insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com/stayhot and use code STAYHOT for a first deposit match up to $100. That means if you put in 50, they'll give you another 50. You'll have 100 in your account. You could put up 99 and they'll give you another 99. It's just up to 100. So it's a great deal. Go to prizepicks.com/stayhot. Use code STAYHOT for that first deposit match. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Another 1 o'clock window we've got. I think the rest of these games are actually 1 o'clock windows. Lions Bears. Lions lost today.
Where do the Lions finish in the NFC North next season? Let's hear it.
Man, first off, dude, you're biased. You're biased.
People forget
Lions.
this, right? People are like, "Oh, Theo's just a Lions hater." I'm like, no, he's a Packers fan, man.
I'm not a Lions hater. I'm a truth teller, is what I am. All right. Look, the Lions were never that good. I'm sorry. It's just the case. They never got a real second weapon outside of Amon-Ra. They invested too heavily in running back. Their defense has Aiden Hutchinson, who's a bit overrated, and like no one else is really all that. Jalen Reeves-Maybin is like making a case as their best defensive player recently. Like they're just not a super talented roster right now in comparison to everybody else. Like Goff isn't that good. Their receiving core isn't that good outside of Amon-Ra. Like their line is pretty good, but I think Decker has fallen off a bit and their guards have been banged up. So it's not necessarily the superpower it was in the past. And, Ben Johnson, I think, has done some creative things, but a play caller is as good as his players are, like a lot of the time. And, he's not this get out of jail free card who can like just magically conjure a top 5 offense out of everything. And the defense, like I'm not impressed with Aaron Glenn, and I'm not impressed with really much of their talent. I'm not impressed with Jack Campbell. I'm not impressed with their like line outside of Aleem McNeil. Like I know that Hutchinson is good and all, but in terms of like impressing me as much as he does, just the general consensus, like that doesn't happen. So yeah, their safeties don't impress me. Like I know that they're number 31 Walker. No, the other one, Kirby Joseph. Yes, he picked off Rodgers a bunch and he owns the Packers and whatever. But like he doesn't impress me like as a stud safety. Like I just don't think their roster top to bottom is like yes, they were clearly the best, like most prepared NFC North team at the beginning of the season, but
outside of the Chiefs game,
think
they
they're going to
not have many marquee wins.
I think they're going to get their
Chiefs
shit
game,
rocked in the playoffs.
I think that's a very, very real possibility. I also think that the NFC wildcard picture outside of the Cowboys or Eagles, who will be playing the NFC South team, is so weak. I think they can win a game still. Although it could be Lions, Packers.
If they get Rams or Packers, dude, I know who I'm picking to upset. That's what I'll say.
I've tried to defend them. I truly have. This was a bad game, man. I mean, I don't disagree.
I'm just glad I won't
You
have
look
to
on
hear.
the units that are strengths here, and it's just like, well, the receivers aren't horrible because they have Amon-Ra, but like it's not a super big plus unit. Goff is like good at times, but not a super big plus. The offensive line is, I still think, pretty great, even though
it's pretty great when it's healthy.
It's pretty great. Yeah, it's just, and then defensively, it's like there's a few guys there, and it's been getting better from where it was, but that's only because where it was like the worst in the NFL. Mm-hmm. This is a pretty inexcusable loss. And while I don't think it's going to stop them from winning the NFC North because they've got a lead and they have outside of the Cowboys, they got 3 winnable games. They'll probably still get some of those. And I think Ben Johnson is a big deal. I am worried about their future 100%. And not only does it start with the fact that they still have a talent gap to close, but I'm worried about losing Ben Johnson, and I'm worried about the quarterback situation. Are you going to pay Goff a big bunch of money?
There's some things they could do to alleviate my concerns pretty quickly. First of all, you don't pay Goff. Maybe you lose Ben Johnson, but again, a different defensive coordinator, I think.
That would just be like a totally different team then. It's like, okay, you lose Ben Johnson, yes. Goff is gone. And
but yes, that's good. They can do that. Like they can become a totally different.
But here's what I think about. Well, they should just move on from Goff to who? It's not easy, man. There's really not that many quarterbacks. There's not that many quarterbacks who are better than Goff, to be completely honest. And I 100% agree. Giving him a big bag is not a good idea. Like it's gonna be tough to build around a quarterback who's going to demand a bunch of money, who is probably, he's right in that sweet spot or unsweet spot of like, got to pay him a bunch, hard to replace, not worth the money. Even really good quarterbacks sometimes not worth the money.
You know what's interesting?
And there's just
in the offseason, I said that the Lions should have traded up using their 2 first-round picks to draft a quarterback. And they called me crazy for that.
Would have been better than what they did.
They called me crazy for that. But instead, they drafted a running back and a bad linebacker, and I'm the bad guy.
Running back and bad linebacker in the first 2 rounds was just brutal, man.
They should have traded up. I mean, I think that Young, who knows how Young would have looked in that offense as opposed to Carolina.
I think he would have looked better.
He looked better. Well, I know.
I'm very confident of that.
I'm also very sure that he would look better. But I'm not saying that is a sure thing that they could have done because obviously Young hasn't proven anything yet. But I think this offseason, yes, they should have assessed Goff, and they had this rare opportunity at the top of the draft to both prep for the future and have a good present. Yeah. And they just did the complete wrong thing. Like the Seahawks are kind of in the same situation, but Geno is, I think, a little better than Goff, and they at least picked Devin Witherspoon. They
picked a good player at a valuable position.
I think the difference is that Geno. Yeah, that's the one thing. I think both the players. I'd take the Seahawks 2 picks over the Lions 2 picks. 10 out of 10 times. 10 out of 10 times, at least in the first round. But I also think that Goff is going, maybe not. I'm worried that Goff is going to be wildly expensive, as opposed to Geno's contract, which is really not that bad.
I don't think Goff would be wildly. There's no way they look at what Geno got and it's not kind of the same, right?
I don't think you could.
If they close it out on a bad playoff loss, they kind of skid down this.
Geno got. Here's the thing: Geno got paid less per year than Daniel Jones.
You don't think Goff is
Goff?
Yeah, Goff has got to get more than Daniel
Jones money.
Goff has been doing it for several
Goff
years.
Would get Daniel Jones.
Here's what Geno was in a position where it was his only year doing it, and the Seahawks had the capital to make a move to replace him.
Yeah. I still don't know because that contract probably I think it looks fine, but who knows if everyone thinks that contract looks fine at this point. They're like, well, because if the Seahawks miss the playoffs, they'll say
it's really the guarantees are really, really short on it too.
And the Daniel Jones contract didn't work. So it's why would we pay Goff way more if
But Goff is not. Daniel Jones is almost kind of the same. Daniel Jones was bad for 3 years, had a statistically solid season, got that big contract. Maybe
is that not what Goff did?
No, Goff was good last year too. At least at this level, absolutely.
I mean, he was fine.
And really,
I don't think if Goff is super expensive, I don't know. I gotta start.
I think Goff's gonna be super expensive.
How expensive? $40 million a year?
I think more.
Oh God!
You think he's getting?
I think he's gonna get more than $40 million a year.
That'd be crazy.
Maybe.
Isn't that crazy? The quarterback market is insane, man. And the Lions, point blank, have.
I would not pay. I would rather just let Goff walk than give him 40 million.
Okay, well, what would you do? If you can give me a good answer to the what would you do, there's no answer to that. He's going to
Hendon Hooker.
They did draft Hendon Hooker.
Hendon Hooker, bro. I'd rather start him than pay Goff like substantially more than Daniel Jones.
What would you do?
You would pay
what would you do? But
Jared Goff.
If my two options were start Hendon Hooker,
or something else, like I don't know, unknown. Well, there's one option that I think I know is bad. Like Goff isn't gonna win you a Super Bowl on his current contract.
Okay, well, how many guys out there are going to get the Lions to the playoffs?
No one. Which is why you just chill on it for a while until you can
you just chill and don't
trade
make the
up
playoffs for a while. The Lions probably will not be thinking like that.
But they should be thinking Goff isn't worth $60 million, or $50 million.
I just think they've caught it because their only option. Maybe they love Penix or Bo Nix or Daniels or somebody who's achievable in a trade up. That's possible. But it just feels like this is where the rebuild is now. The expectation is going to be that they're better next year. And it feels like the easiest way to do that would be to bring back Goff and try to build the rest of the roster
I
out.
would rather howl Hendon Hooker than bring back Goff at your
Let's reassess real quick. Goff is not a free agent until 2025. You have another year.
Really? I thought he was a free agent this offseason.
I did too. I'm looking right now. He's not a free agent until 2025.
Dang, okay. Well, that makes things
a little bit
easier.
easier. I would almost consider if you have another shot, Lions, to get this right. Package Goff in your first round pick, trade up and get a goddamn quarterback.
Look, you just
dude, I'm insane. I thought this whole time that he was a free agent this offseason, for months. That's on me.
The free agent quarterbacks are Cousins,
regardless, it's going to become a problem.
Tannehill, Brissett, Tyrod. Pick up Tyrod, man.
He's making $30 million now on a contract signed in 2018. You don't think he could get $40 million in this new market?
He was playing better when he signed that contract.
Yeah, this was the deal he signed
Lions
with the Rams.
fans were making he needs to be an MVP conversation takes for him last year.
Lions fans were delusional for that.
So
that's just.
And were the Rams delusional to give this guy this contract anyway? Maybe.
Probably. I just don't think you should.
I don't disagree.
He'll be up for an extension this year. Yes. No doubt about it.
Here's the better conversation. Okay. Scratch this. Justin Fields. Bears.
I'm 100% after what I saw today. Drafting Caleb Williams first overall and shipping Fields off. 100% what I'd do. Not even a second thought in my mind about it. Fields does not look like the guy, dude. He just doesn't. Even in this game, he was holding it, running it, things are open.
So long, man. He just does. The numbers can look good, and he's racked up a lot of passing yards since his return. And what my fear is, and I think what a lot of Bears fans want is Fields has looked a little better, and we've looked a little better this year. And
draft Caleb, dude, or May.
But we could get Marvin Harrison if we don't do those two things, and we can't get Marvin Harrison if we don't do those. If we do that, if we go draft Caleb, we can't get Marvin.
Draft Caleb and Neighbors. As a Packer fan, I'm begging them to keep Fields and keep building around him. Honestly, Caleb is a different level of prospect than Fields was, a completely different level, and so is May, I think. And Fields hasn't shown anything to show that he's a better player now than he was as a prospect. All of your worst fears have come true with him, and they've remained. His weaknesses have remained his weaknesses. What crazy strengths has he exhibited here in the last couple weeks?
Well, his rushing ability.
His rushing ability, right? But it's he needs more than that at this point. So he's got to have some actual great games strung together to save his job. And the Vikings game was certainly not a great performance. And this game was, I don't think, a great performance.
Yeah.
And it made Bears fans who are Fields believers would say, like, look, that's because the talent sucks and Getsy sucks. And like, I can kind of agree with those things too. But like, Getsy probably doesn't want to be calling all these screens. He didn't come from an offense that just called screens all the time when they had Aaron Rodgers. It's like, I just don't think he trusts Field to get it done. And maybe Fields gets it done somewhere else. But man, Caleb,
all right,
the guy's special. All right,
do.
like
you're
Fields has been a bust.
To Detroit, and then
sure, yeah. I mean, between two divisions, that probably.
Either of those teams, then they can just run the ball every single play.
Ohio,
they'll just run the ball every.
Keep that Ohio.
Let's do it. Yeah, I don't know.
We're gonna do triple option.
Just the first place that comes to mind.
Ritter and Bijan.
That would Justin Fields turning Ritter into a decoy quarterback will be Arthur Smith's greatest play.
I hope Arthur Smith was watching Justin Fields go in motion while DJ Moore was quarterback today, so he could do that with Ritter and Fields next year.
It's going to be a big debate this offseason, I think. If Fields
it should. I honestly think
I don't think it should be. But dude, I'm telling you, at least in Bears circles, the idea is it's more. It's far more pro keep Fields. Far more.
I think who's legitimately making a case to be kept is Eberflus.
Yeah,
like that's who I think is
better.
Yeah, it's been way better. Like that.
The Sweat trade has looked. I still think it's probably in the long run not the right way to build things out, but it's pretty hard to argue with the results.
Yeah, he's been playing very well, and they've been a good defense since they got him. I agree. Like, it might come someday, like when we look at Sweat's contract and say, like, he's really making the second most money out of like anybody. He's really making like Myles Garrett money. I think eventually, once the expectations get high,
I agree. Once the expectation is like, hey, you're 5-8, that's not bad.
We'll see if Sweat maintains this level of worth itness, but so far he has through 3 games, it's all good. He was very disruptive today, and they've been a great run defense all year, more than they've been a great pass defense. Like, Eberflus's vision is kind of coming into succession. Like, they're playing well. Like, it's not the fanciest, flashiest defense, but it's like solid and hard to move the ball on. And yeah, it's been that so far. I haven't really dug into the tape, but they've definitely earned a full review this week on TikTok, where I'll be able to sing their praises more clearly. But yeah, I think that Eberflus and maybe Poles have made more of a case than Fields to be kept in these over this win streak.
I think I agree.
Fair enough.
I think I agree.
Well, before we get into our Little Caesars game, I mean, both of our last 2 games it's Browns and then Ravens. So AFC North all through and through on this episode, except for the Steelers. But we'll talk about the Browns and the Jaguars first and save Ravens for our game of the week.
You got it.
Yeah, I guess I got it. I'll say this. So Jags have dropped 2 straight now. Is that right?
Yep. They lost to Browning and Flacco.
Yeah, it doesn't get much worse than that. Offensively, the Jags could not deal with Jim Schwartz blitzing. Jim Schwartz was super aggressive sending heat today.
Shockingly.
And they just had no answers. They couldn't convert passes down the field. They tried to let ship rip early, but I mean, our DBs were step for step in man coverage. Greg Newsome, after getting cooked a couple of weeks ago, was stride for stride with Calvin Ridley. There were a couple of times where, Trevor just airmailed passes down the field sometimes. It was just really rough to watch.
Granted, Lord knows how he's
right.
playing.
I mean, that's the other. I was surprised that he was even playing today. A little bit.
I don't think. I mean, genuinely, honest to God, real question. When is the last time you've seen a guy with a high ankle sprain and like a bad high ankle sprain, like had to leave the game, bad, just play the next week? That's usually a brutal, nagging, they're going to come back and they don't type injury. 1 week, you're good to go.
It was a short
This
week.
is exactly what happened when the Browns played the Bengals week 1. Burrow was dealing with his calf, and they just blitzed the hell out of him. And it's just so hard to get offense going when you're
when you're that and you can't run the ball at all. I like Peterson. I Lawrence is still, working out some consistency, but I believe in him. They just don't have the dudes on the line, and they don't have world beaters, skill position guys.
And without Christian Kirk,
it's just too much on those two.
Yeah, and without Christian Kirk, it's Trevor's favorite target.
And with Christian Kirk out too. That's fair to say. They do have pretty good pass catchers. Like, I guess they don't have world beaters, but like Ingram, had a great game today.
Yeah. And the only time the Jaguars really were able to score points was because the Browns would turn the ball over. Like, as much as people are going to want to sing the praises of Joe Flacco, and he had, some really nice throws today. He's
better than
Deshaun Watson, which very low bar.
It is his
low bar, but he had the one fumble that came out, and that led to a Jags touchdown. He threw a pick I'm pretty sure that led to a Jags touchdown too. It's just, that's really what kept Jacksonville in this game. Otherwise, the Browns pretty much handled business outside of the turnovers.
Remember when I criticized Deshaun Watson and then Trap House Sport? Who was it? What's that name of that page? Who's Next Sports? Not Trap House Sport. He was in my comments like, how dare you go after an NFL player like Deshaun Watson? You could never get off your couch and go and play at a professional level like Deshaun Watson.
Just got off his couch.
And then I was like, fuck out of the comments, man. And he's like, I'm staying here. Bro, he's getting outplayed. But the Browns offense looks better with Joe Flacco out there. Where is your Deshaun Watson?
Here's really what we need to talk about. They were saying that Kevin Stefanski should get fired. And
Lord knows why, man.
I will never understand. We've had 4 quarterbacks this year. We're literally playing without our best offensive player in Nick Chubb. I don't get it. We're 8-5.
Well, because somebody's got to be. You guys were not. It was not looking great at one point. Somebody's got to be blamed.
And it can't be Watson because he's on
the team no matter what. So it's going to be on Stefanski. It's the same thing that NBA teams do, where it's like, well, we've got our guys. We can't move anybody for nothing. Coach, it's on you.
People were saying Kevin Stefanski needs to get fired. It's like, oh, well, things weren't looking great. We were 6-3, dog.
That's true.
Like, what are we were like,
but it was largely because things weren't looking great, like with Watson, where it's like, okay, well,
Watson sucks. And why could that be? It couldn't possibly be because he can't read the field and he's slow through his progressions and his release is slow. No, it's because Stefanski can't call the right plays. And then when we're throwing the ball, when DTR is in at quarterback, they're like, why aren't you running the ball more? Even though we're like 19th in rushing EPA. We're like not that good at running the ball without Chubb right now. And everyone's like, you guys need to run the ball more. I'm like, no, we don't. At least if we're calling plays, give us a shot to like get some explosives instead of just like 3 yards.
Yeah, man. Coaches get so unfairly treated by their respective Twitter. Like, just Twitter. I will bootlick coaches. I will absolutely bootlick coach. Twitter treats play callers so badly. Yeah. And every fan base thinks their coach is just ass and they suck and they're not calling the right plays. It's like, bro, you do not know how to sequence plays.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on. You don't know what the strategy is. You should have done that thing you were just talking about with like Matt Canada on TikTok. You could never sequence plays at the NFL level.
Look, sometimes it's obvious, but like, oh my God, like, look, who is on the hot seat right now? It's Kyle Shanahan got so much hate from 49ers Twitter. And I'm not making this up. Like, I follow a weird amount of 49ers fans. They personally blamed Kyle Shanahan for every injury they suffered to Debo because they ran Debo like a running back. and they were mad that Trey Lance got hurt because they ran Trey Lance on like a design run. They're like, Kyle puts them in positions, he blows all these games in the playoffs. Like no one is happy with their coach. Chiefs fans don't like Andy Reid right now.
That's true. That's true. There's pretty much the only time that fan bases are
if
happy
you're winning,
with their
it's
coach.
good.
It's like if you even if you're a good team, you have to be like either like one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the entire NFL, or your team has to be like significantly overperforming expectations. But even then, that's not going to last more than like a year. And then the next year, maybe you lose like one more game than you were supposed to, and it's over, and they should be done.
I don't see Lions
coaches
fans
who are good
complaining
right now.
So
I don't see Lions fans. I see them complaining about Aaron Glenn, that's one I think is pretty valid. But look, Ben Johnson will come under the crossfire if they end on with a losing record, like the rest of the way. Like it just will happen. It will happen to every coach. It will happen to every play caller.
My question
when something doesn't work,
to be like,
they will get blamed.
My question continues to be like the same as your question with Goff, Matt. It's like, hypothetically, the Browns fire Stefanski. What's the move? Like, because then you have to promote Schwartz to head coach, I think.
Or otherwise you're worried about him walking.
Which, like, I guess he's under contract, but
Stefanski, he's done a perfectly reasonable job.
He's not going. This is just Twitter
it's just
people.
Twitter narrative. But like, I'm like, hypothetically.
Only Twitter MFs.
Hypothetically, you're the owner.
Like,
you fire Stefanski. What are
these damn Twitter MFs?
They just hate every play call. It's like as soon as it doesn't work, they're like, "Why would the coach ever call this stupid play?" And it's like there's no critical thought of like what. Okay,
but don't
sometimes
you on a
you
deep
have
level get that at least a little bit?
I get it at some extent.
Sometimes a play call will be so bad that it'll work, and I'll be like, "Yeah, but that was still stupid."
Sure, but
you don't ever have that.
Look, well, there are bad play calls. Like they do exist, but like just to the level
the Browns had the game where DTR was throwing pretty well, and there were a lot of drops. There was a 4th down play where I think it was Amari Cooper that dropped it, and everyone on Twitter was like, "Why did we throw it there?" And I'm like, "What are we?" I'm like, what?
Why are they dialing up the shot? It's like, well, there are multiple routes on every throw, and the quarterback is actually the one who chooses the route to throw to.
Why
and
are
the
they
play call
dialing up the
actually,
shot?
Sometimes they can throw it short or deep, and I don't know, man. It's
the Browns
just,
are 8-5.
Yeah,
I think
you see dumb shit all
the Browns are 8-5. I think Stefanski deserves most of the credit for why the Browns are good this year. Him and of course like the defense collectively.
I would say like Myles Garrett probably.
Myles Garrett by himself he does deserve a lot of
Myles
credit.
Garrett would be number 1 on my list. But yeah, Stefanski, you can't. He's had to deal with a lot. I don't think the offense is really responsible for any of their success because it's been a bad offense this year, and he's in charge of their offense.
Yeah,
so
I guess that's fair.
But it's like I don't know how he could have done like just conjured some like awesome.
Theo,
offense.
what did you just say
like,
about Ben Johnson? Like Ben Johnson's a good coach, but he's not like a fix-all to like generate a top 5 offense. He's only as good as his players. And
you gotta have the guys.
You gotta have the guys. And right now the Browns don't have the guys. And without Chubb especially, it's just so hard to generate consistent offense.
But
they won today, though. I just wanted to give my rant about people saying Stefanski should be fired. But the Browns won today. Here's my thing. What are your thoughts on why doesn't the NFL have a most improved player? That should be an award.
I saw you tweet that. Oh, it should be Grant Delpit. You were saying that Grant Delpit was great last year.
Yeah, you love Grant Delpit.
I had high hopes.
You're right.
How did you think he was great last year and he's most improved?
I thought he could be great last year.
No, that's a lie.
First of all, most improved is Jerron Reed. That guy was ass.
Well, Dolphins fans are telling me it's Austin Jackson.
He has been better this year.
So, I don't know. I just think it would be a fun
I
award.
don't think he's been as bad.
And I would give it to Delpit.
I agree. They should have a most improved. I do agree with that take. But you were also calling Grant Delpit great last year.
I'm a Grant Delpit fan.
You are. You should be putting him in larger combos, like all through.
Like Depoy.
Yeah.
There we go. I don't know if his numbers would support that, but he had a good game today. He had a sack, and
I'd be up for a new batch of awards. That's something that the NBA just kind of has instilled recently, is like new things to win. The NFL is quick to change. They could use
most outstanding player who is not a quarterback.
Yeah. They just need they just need to break up MVP into two separate awards. That's what they need to do. No more MVP.
Well, if only they had an offensive player of the year and a defensive player of the year. I literally think they should just take, this is something I've said before, like the Cy Young for pitchers. Just take MVP and call it Cy Young, but you do a quarterback. You do Johnny Unitas. I don't give a shit who it is. Like,
Otto Graham.
The Cam Newton Award. Yes, the Cam Newton Award goes to the best quarterback. And then just do everything else can be the same. Just literally that would fix all the world's problems would be gone if they just took the MVP, got rid of it, and just did offensive player of the year.
They should just do what they do in college. You give it awards out for the best position, and then you also give out a Heisman Award.
Yes, which I guess they kind of do because of All-Pro and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
College has a million awards, though. You could do all conference, all American, and then there's like all the individual
all AFC
awards,
North.
But it doesn't matter.
First team AFC North.
Yeah, every division gets their own MVP. And then there's a bracket.
So true.
That could be kind of fire. Anyway, let's talk about the Little Caesars.
Little Caesars game of the week. Ravens, Rams. I missed a lot of this game because I was watching the Browns game, but I heard it was.
You have to rewatch it.
Yeah, I've heard that Lamar and Stafford were both dealing.
Dude.
Yes, they were.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if I've seen more good under pressure throws in a single game than this one right here. Because they were getting after him today, no question. And it just didn't matter. Stafford was money, and Lamar was doing the same stuff. Those guys are running around for their life the entire game, and it just didn't make a difference. It was fantastic.
You got the two sidearm merchants going head to head, and like the arm slots, and just the quarterback play was astoundingly good. There were multiple plays in this game where Stafford got blitzed heavy, and he just would float it up like just an absolute lollipop up instantly, and it would be in the air. Cup would break, and then it would like just float down into his hands, and the ball was up in the air for like 10 seconds. He hit two of those today. He hit a shot to Nakua, which I posted on TikTok, where Nakua was running a crosser. Cup was running motion into a go, but Marlon jammed him. So by the time Nakua's crosser developed, Cup was supposed to clear out, but it wasn't happening because he got rerouted. So when the throw came, it was kind of into double coverage, and it was tight man coverage on Nakua, and Stafford getting like absolutely rocked, like just dropped it right in the bucket on the sideline, like in a clutch moment. It was sick. And then Lamar, like the 2-point conversion is one of the plays of the year where he stepped up and got like snapped in half and just like put it out to Flowers. And it was, yeah, they were pretty unbelievable. Stafford, I'd have to give the edge to in terms of like who had the better performance, because he was doing it against Baltimore's defense. And he didn't throw a pick, but yeah, they both had some pretty eye-popping plays. If you have NFL Plus, missed this game, it is well worth a rewatch. And hopefully Kyle Hamilton is okay. That's the other big storyline from this game.
Yeah, I heard.
Because it looked kind of bad. It looked like he got kind of a non-contact injury earlier in the game and kind of hobbled out. But then he came back in and then he got hurt for real, it looked like. And if he's out, that's horrific for for everybody. But he played really good. Roquan played really good. Like, I honestly didn't think the Ravens defense did a terrible job.
I thought their secondary kind of got. I mean, Stafford was great, but I thought
Marlon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marlon. Had a
Odell's double move touchdown. Nasty, man. That was
on Twitter.
The play of the day for me. I mean, it wasn't even the play of the game because it was a punt return walk-off touchdown.
Yes.
But it was, dude, that was a great one.
Yeah, we could just go off and listing crazy plays that happened in this game. Kyron Williams played well. Everybody really played well. Kupp had some just nasty moves after the catch. Like, it was just a great game. Like, if the Rams looked like a team I want in the playoffs, and that's a credit to everyone involved. Stafford and Kupp just still being elite. Nakua was such a home run draft pick. Like, their coaches, like the offensive line bounced back in a big way. And then I think the big underrated storyline from the Rams season has been Raheem Morris. And I know their defense isn't great, but I think I've said it before on this podcast recently. Like, it looks so bad on paper that average results should guarantee him a head coaching job. I mean, like, who are these guys that they've got out there a lot of the times? And especially their front seven has been playing well. And I think his scheme is kind of what you're looking for in the modern era. You know, he designs a lot of like creative blitzes and fire zones, which like McDonald has really thrived with. And he was there in Washington with McVay and McDaniel and Shanahan and LaFleur. He was just on the defensive side of the ball, but he's like best friends with all those guys. And like, who knows who from that tree could potentially draw. Like, I think that his name would be circled in red for me in terms of head coaching candidates. And this wasn't the most banner day from their defense because like the Ravens put up like over 30 points and won the game. But just it's kind of a general note for the season is like, I think the Rams are a dangerous team, and like they scare me a hell of a lot more than the Vikings, you know, who are in the playoffs right now. So,
or Saints or Tampa or whoever,
or maybe even Packers. I mean, the Packers beat them, but they don't have the star power the Rams do, at least with Stafford and Kupp. Like, those two are probably a bit more reliable than Donald than anyone the Packers have. So I thought today was kind of a statement from them, like, hey, we're here, because it felt like a playoff game. So we'll see if that statement, they have to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, it kind of was a playoff game. Ravens were trying to hold on to the one seed, and
oh yeah, it was high stakes.
I mean, I don't see the Rams as anything more than like a feisty wild card team.
Maybe not.
I don't either, but I thought it was a little bit of it. Like, I thought it was a statement of like Stafford is kind of back, and like Stafford is not
so good
a quarterback you want to face.
No, he's not.
And Kupp and Nakua, like, I thought it was kind of a statement in that way. Like, they went on a 3-game losing streak. They're 6-7, but they're like kind of, McVay has kind of brought them back into good team contentions and good team conversations.
Yeah.
And if I were to rank my top 10s right now, if I were to rank my top 10 teams right now, as opposed to last episode, it might be that the Rams would be in that 10 spot over Houston, because they were someone I was considering.
Might have to drop Jacksonville out of that too.
Mm-hmm. I think the Rams might be a top 10 team.
The Rams aren't supposed to be good this year. This isn't supposed to. They're ahead of schedule for like their rebuild. They have their first. They're finally back to having first round draft picks this season.
Trade him away. Trade him away. You guys are so close.
I don't know, man. I'd be pretty excited.
Another
I'd be
Stafford
pretty excited
rule.
Brian
next year.
Burns' deal is back on the table, baby. We're up.
That's what I'm hearing.
I'd be pretty excited next year if I was a Rams fan. I'd be pretty stoked, assuming they draft well.
We'll see what Stafford has left in the tank. I feel like his career is always a bit on the ropes of like how much longer he can continue because he has, but he looks really good right now. So I don't know why he would be close to being done. Like who knows how long?
As long as he stays
open,
healthy, that's really the only thing that keeps you on your toes is his health. But if he's healthy,
yeah, and if Raheem Morris doesn't get head coaching consideration, like it's a lot of continuity, and there's like I wonder if there won't, for the first time in a while, there won't be like a brain drain from LA, like as people just try to poach all their coaches. Like this might be a year where, although who knows if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't
really
see. That's the thing is like, you're right. Morris probably is exceeding expectations defensively for them, but like.
I thought they'd be the worst defense in the league, like by far. That was my honest expectation looking at.
But I don't know if anyone will give him a head coaching job for just like an average defense.
I don't think they will.
Because oftentimes, if you think about like how owners go about making those decisions, they're probably not like deep analyzing the EPA. It's just like, rumors around the league, like, oh, this guy, I've heard this guy's pretty good. Let's bring him in.
Yeah, but I don't know. He got Bobby Wagner a 90 PFF grade last year. So.
That means something.
It means something to me. Anyway. Yeah, it was a great game. I am excited for the Rams' future. I hope.
Yes.
I hope it's them and the Packers along with Dallas as those NFC wildcard teams. That's where my head is at currently.
After today, probably is sitting on top of the division, aren't they?
No, the Eagles are still because they've beat them before.
Because the Eagles beat them by.
Is Dallas at the top?
Yes, they are. They're sitting at the top right now.
Okay, but the Dallas has the much harder schedule going forward. So. Well, the announcers were making it seem like Philly controlled their own
Dallas has Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, and Washington. Philly has Seattle, New York, Giants, Arizona, New York Giants. So, yeah, it's substantially easier.
Yeah. Who knows? But one of those teams will be the wild card. And I think the Packers and Rams are the most formidable of the rest, I would say.
Probably fair.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Panthers aren't making it, Matt.
Sorry, Seahawks. Sorry, Vikings.
No.
They're mathematically eliminated.
They are mathematically eliminated, even in world's most horrifying division.
Yeah, 6-7, 6-7, 6-7, 1-12. It's disgusting.
Yeah, man. They're not winning another game for sure. I mean, I
wait until week 17, dude. I think they'll win one more week 17.
At least they can't lose their first round.
I turned on this game. I'm like, why not? I turned on the game. Yeah, you know how many times I've heard well, at least they have the first overall pick. Oh, wait. Like, dude, every time I tweet about the Panthers, at least 10 times in the comments. I know. I get it. They don't have the first overall pick, do they? But I turned on the game and immediately Bryce Young, strip sack or whatever, or interception just pops right up in the air into the Saints hands and turn it right back off. No point. I think he had like 37 yards today or whatever. I don't know. He completed 37% of his passes. Just something horrifying. Just unwatchably bad.
Yeah. And none of our locks hit today.
And none of our locks hit.
Even though I locked my locks.
You locked your locks and it still didn't hit. How could this be?
I wasn't expecting the Zach Wilson masterclass. Stroud getting injured.
Yeah.
A fool you were.
A fool I was.
How could you not have seen that coming? Didn't we literally warn you?
I warned Matt about the Bears, by the way.
Did you actually?
You have 6 points. You locked the Panthers
I'm
last
hanging
week.
the bet. You watch the film. Watch the film, and it's better than my results. All right, go back and see how the locks happen,
Okay.
and you'll see some moments
Okay,
that don't
it's-
show up
all right,
on the
not your
stat
fault,
sheet.
not your fault.
He's the Justin Herbert of locks.
The lock stats are it's a Vegas stat, honestly.
So
not
true.
Me.
I mean, Matt is due. You know, Theo won the first year. I won last year.
True.
So it's
Yeah,
There's
that's
balance. There's got to be balance to the thing. So I couldn't have won the last 2
perfectly
years.
balanced as all things should be. Matt is inevitable.
Next year is my year.
Yeah, it's the
you
cycle.
go.
It's the cycle. But I think that's all we have for today. Make sure you tune in. I mean, you'll be watching this on Monday, hopefully. So make sure you tune in later today for our Little Caesars Monday Night Football live stream. Let's go. There's 2 Monday night games. Am I correct in saying that?
which one are we gonna watch? I have to go back and forth like that.
I know
really
which one we
fast.
will be watching.
Dolphins, Titans. So yeah, make sure you tune into that on our YouTube. We'll be live watching some Monday Night Football. Maybe we'll watch one of the games. Maybe we'll watch both. Maybe we'll just shoot the shit. Who knows? No, we'll be watching football. And then make sure you tune in Tuesday for our live film breakdown of another edge prospect in this upcoming NFL draft. And then we'll be back with another episode Thursday morning. But until then, thank you all so much for tuning in. And until next time, from your favorite trio over at Stay Hot, we will catch you on the flippity flop.